When Granddad, he was arrested in Toronto, he was on a business trip in Toronto on the day they were collecting everybody. And he was eventually sent to Petawawa. And when he got there, he was horrified to see how depressed all the men in the camp were, and they had every right to be. Most of them had had their business taken away and sold off for the war effort.
Bank accounts confiscated.
Bank accounts, Mom and the kids kicked out on the street, and the house sold off for the war effort.
Horrible.
I can't forgive that one. And as I say, they had every right to be depressed. And Granddad was one of these people that always wanted, how can we make this better? We can improve this. There's got to be a way. So he had this brainwave. He went to see the guards, and he said, would you let me, if I brought together a group of guys, could we take over the kitchen for part of a day and cook up an Italian feast? Oh, Granddad was a good cook too, didn't hurt. And they said, sure, we'll work out a time. And they did. And on the given day, this group of Italian guys move in, take over the kitchen, and they cook up a storm like you wouldn't believe. And come supper time, they sit down, and for a couple of hours, they appreciate who they are and that they are somebody, and sing their O Solo Mios. And it was a lovely event, believe it or not, in a difficult setting. At the end of the evening, Granddad went back into the kitchen to make sure everything was all cleaned up and lovely. And a couple of guards came in. And they said, we want to talk to you. And Leo thought, oh, what now? And they said, well, we've been talking. We think from here on in, you should do the cooking and we'll do the dishes.
Right on.
That's my best story.
A little bit of humanity, just a small bit.
That's right. Yeah.
What are you guys hoping happens in June as far as the celebration and education that's going to go on? What is your hope for North Bay's community, anyways?
Our hope is never again.
Yeah. Hopefully. When I see the way the world is turning now, I'm a little less hopeful than I would have been maybe 10 years ago. And I hate to say that out loud because I'm an optimist. But paranoia can creep in so violently. And you can see what it can do.
And I think it's good. I think we need to recognize it.
Yes.
And to record
Explain it. Yeah.
And as a witness to a history,
Yeah.
a dark history,
Yeah.
but important because you don't want to, you hope that it would not be repeated.
Yeah.
And it's a lesson to take.
Actually, that's one reason why the Davedi Club is going to the trouble that it is. That we're going to have a movie night and then the dinner and then a soccer game and lots of pizza afterwards. And it is a social event, but part of their mandate in setting this whole thing up is education of the public. And the idea of putting the commemorative stone down by the waterfront is just brilliant. And the mayor is all for it. And because it is a moment in history that, for many reasons, I won't say it's been overlooked. It's been kept maybe quieter than it needed to be. So this is our moment.
Yeah. Men that were picked up across Ontario, for instance, they were picked up across all of Canada. There were 3 camps. The West, we were the Central, and then there was the East Coast. And when they came into the homes to arrest them, the RCMP came in. A lot of the homes were ransacked. They were looking for any kind of fascist publications, Mussolini bust, anything, you know. And and that it for some families it was quite brutal. And there's a situation in Sudbury where they picked up Dr. Pencarroll. He was put in the camp, and he was there for quite some time. And after the war, he went back to work in Sudbury. Very beloved doctor. And one day he had the opportunity to operate on a man who was actually the RCMP officer that arrested him. and never spoke about it.
Wow.
Never saved the man's life. It was a ruptured appendix. And
That's actually very sweet.
yeah, so.
Forgiveness,
Mm-hmm.
or at least being able to lay aside that obvious, well, you must have hated them
Mm-hmm.
at some level.
Mm-hmm.
There must have been some type of anger,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah,
I would think.
yeah.
I don't know what they did with it, because
Yeah.
I never saw it. Tony and Leo, or their families.
Mm-hmm.
I think they were just so grateful that they got out
Yeah,
and that they weren't harmed.
yeah,
I think the gratitude was
Yeah.
as big as, and the fear.
yeah. When the second wave of Italians came over in the 50s, I remember going to school, and the students that I was going to school said, "You're Italian, why don't you speak Italian?" So I went home and I said to my mom, my dad, both of them was at supper table, and I said, I want to know why we don't get to speak Italian. And my father's face turned very grave, and I didn't know why. And he said, "Because you're Canadian." And then years later, when I approached him about the internment, he said, "Well, your grandfather was told not to speak it in the business and not to speak it in the home." And my parents would talk between each other, but we picked up words here and there, yes, but I really felt like we were robbed of our heritage.
Oh, I feel completely cheated.
Yeah.
I listened to Anthony wrote a drifting
Beautiful
French
Italian.
Italian.
Yeah, I know.
I can't do that.
Yeah, yeah.
I can say ciao.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. No,
But they were scared,
they were.
silent.
Yep.
And I met Dr. Pancaro's granddaughter. We had an exhibit at the Columbus Center in Toronto, and I met her there, and she said that her grandfather was a vivacious, really loud, fun person, and came back and basically didn't speak till he died. Like, he hardly said a few words here and there, and that was it. But they certainly didn't like talking about it.
No.
Most of them didn't.
But the next generation we were biracial, if you will, with a Scotsman and an Italian, and I don't know if that was part of it. I have no idea. But the luck of the draw that they chose to explain things to their kids,
Yeah,
which
that was
is,
good.
oh, it's a gift,
Mm-hmm.
because you can't go back once they're gone. You think, why didn't I ask that question? You know, the whole thing is just an amazing process, and we are so blessed to be in this country. I say that every day. Sometimes the weather's not so great, but I don't care. We're lucky to be here.
Mm-hmm.
And the people who came early, Granddad walked into Timmins, well, it wasn't Timmins, in 1908 with a pack on his back, and there were just a bunch of tents, you know, and they saw the future. I don't know that I would have.
That's for sure.
And
Yeah.
they gave us a home base.
Yeah.
Yeah, it amazes me.
Yeah.
Well, and your family too. It
Yeah.
just
Another family in North Bay that had an internee was the Goya family. So Elo Goya was picked up because he was just a person who loved culture, and he loved the opera, he loved the arts, and he started bringing little groups of young kids over to Italy. So they would, of course, there were no flights. They would go over on a boat. It would take 2 weeks to go over, and then he would take them to all the art galleries.
oh my goodness.
Yeah, and my mother was really lucky because she got chosen to go, and my father went with another group later, but
Wow.
he was declared a fascist.
Oh, of
And
course.
he was put in Petawawa for the full length of the war. When he got back to North Bay, he experienced exactly what her grandfather was.
shelling.
Yeah, and he couldn't take it. He moved to Toronto, lived just off of St. Clair Avenue, and then but missed North Bay so badly. He loved the lakes,
Mm.
and everything else. And I remember as a 12-year-old, and my two cousins, my sister and my cousin were 11 years old, and we all got in the train and went down and stayed with them. And he took us around to Toronto to the cultural things.
Good.
And then he moved back to North Bay and passed away here. But never a word. I never knew why he left North Bay. Yeah.
They must have had a strength that seems uncommon now.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
There's
It is.
lack of appreciation for what we do have, and definite lack of understanding of what others have gone through.
Yeah.
Oh, completely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how that happened, that disconnect,
Mhm.
but people seem oblivious.
Hmm. My thoughts too for my grandfather was he had come back from the First World War, fighting for the Allies, and had PTSD.
Mm.
I think he did. And then, just carry on like stiff upper
Yep.
lip and get your business going, and then suddenly plucked out of that and put in a concentration camp. And I think that broke him.
Hmm.
I really do. Yeah.
Yeah, and it wasn't explained at all to them, really.
No.
Why? The one quote I remember somebody telling me about Leo, when they were arresting him, he said, "How can they do this? I paid my taxes."
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, just,
Yeah. It's amazing.
it was
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah.
So, really looking forward to what happens in June. At least a proud moment, really, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
Be able to, one, show how strong and vibrant the Italian-Canadian community is in Northern Ontario, despite
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
that problem,
Yeah.
That's right.
that trauma,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We have a little bit of artifacts. There's not much, but
No, but there's
yeah,
there's
a
gonna
little
be a
bit.
room full.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah,
Right on.
where the Columbus Center had collected. They had actually a room about this size that was a museum,
Mm.
and we had donated 2 paintings. When my grandfather was interned, my grandmother finally found out where he was. She sent him a Christmas box. In those days, the cardboard box actually was printed with little bells or, whatever, little snowflakes or whatever. And he was interned with a German fellow. His name was Bendel. And he was from Parry Sound. He had a farm that was adjacent to a munitions depot. So they picked him up and threw him in there.
Of course.
And he was a painter.
Mm.
So he took the back of the cardboard box, trimmed it off, and he did 2 paintings for my grandfather, and they're dated. And they went into the archive. One is a spring picture and one is a winter. And then we found one actually was way down in Texas. So they did end up with 3 paintings altogether.
They're lovely.
Yeah, and then Sandy has a carving.
Oh, yeah. It's just, you think of these people that lived such vibrant, busy lives in normal living, and then they're imprisoned. I think they were bored out of their tree. I know Granddad did a lot of lumbering, but
Yeah.
anyway.
And they were older too. They
Yeah,
weren't
well, he was
young.
65.
Same as my grandfather, yeah.
But a lot of them did wood carving.
Mm-hmm.
If you remember the displays.
Yes, beautiful.
Oh, that coffee table.
Yeah, there's.
Oh my, stunning.
Yeah,
Like it came right out of Florence.
yeah.
And Granddad carved a salad spoon and fork. Isn't that what you do?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh dear. Oh, to think your life is reduced to carving
Yeah.
a salad fork, but
Yeah.
it's okay. They made it work.
Yeah.
Well, you do what you have to do when you have to do it.
That's right. Yeah.
It builds scars, but builds character too.
Yeah.
Strength, resilience, even if it's not obvious. You imagine that they would see things happening around them and would not consider them a big deal
Mm-hmm.
when they know what a big deal really is.
Oh,
Mhm.
they did. They did.
Yeah.
It makes you ultra aware, I think, of different drifts within society, and some of them look a little scary,
Mhm.
and you're just so wary. Not in a freaky way. I don't mean it that way, but you're just so attuned. Can that develop into something that could be worrisome? And Mom was very prescient. She was just one cute little story. It was the middle of August 1960, and it was the weekend that I was supposed to get married. So everybody was home, big surprise. And my mother's cooking. What else is a surprise? Anyway, we're all in the kitchen, and we have the radio on, CBC radio, and it's noontime. And the news comes on, and the announcer says, the Prime Minister, Mr. John Diefenbaker, has just announced the Charter of Rights. And we all look at Mom, who's stirring something on the stove. She was the master of understatement. She didn't look up. She just said, that would be a really good thing. Thank you, Mom.
Yes. Yes, Mom. Yeah.
So that's the way they handled it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just noticed that the two chairs aren't level, and you're looking even smaller than
That's
you
okay.
should. Sorry about that.
Adjustable?
Oh, maybe it was just because you were leaning back.
I'm rocking
Okay.
back and forth.
No, it's higher.
Oh, it is? Oh,
Yeah, it is.
That's okay.
Well, let's start over.
No,
No, it's okay.
It's okay.
Was there anything else that you thought would be really good for a little video to help promote what was coming up in June that we can wrap up with?
Well, we will have the dedication of the stone.
Yes.
That'll be done
Mhm.
down at the waterfront.
Yeah,
And we have dignitaries lined up for that.
yes.
We have a documentary that we'll show on the Friday night.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Then we will have a formal dinner the next day,
Right.
Saturday. And then the Sunday we're doing a soccer tournament with the fun one, the adults and kids. So.
Where's the tournament going to be?
We're going to be down at the O&R field.
Okay.
Yeah, by the overpass.
Oh, right on.
Followed by
So everybody will
pizzas.
be able to see
Pizza
it.
after.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right
Good
on.
time for all.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Feel good about yourself.
And
Yeah.
what's that date? Do you remember?
The 11th, the 12th,
The 11th and the 12th.
12th,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, 12th.
So
so
June
the
11th
13th.
and 12th.
Yes,
13th.
yes.
Yeah, I guess Sunday will be the 13th.
Yeah, it's going to be a busy weekend.
Oh, I
But-
guess so.
The
Very
hate
nice.
and the prejudice and the bigotry and the, you just got to keep fighting it.
Yeah.
It's got to.
And this is one very quiet, pleasant way to hopefully overcome some of that.
Mhm.
That's our hope.
Yeah.